So welcome today, everyone, to our Big Shoulders Fun Literacy Weekly webinar. We're very excited to have you here with us. Thanks to everyone who was able to rename themselves. If you're having any issues with that, please feel free to drop me a note in the chat and I can help you with that. So today, based on your feedback from our last session, we're going to talk about presenting new content. We know that a lot of us were just trying to make it through, and now that we know that we are here in this space of distance learning for a little bit longer, we want to make sure our kids are still learning, still growing, becoming ready for the next grade level. And so we want to think about how can we present new content to them in ways that they will engage with it while they're outside of the classroom, and also in ways that they're going to retain that knowledge. So we have a couple ideas for you today. Today we are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about kind of two big ideas, and then we're going to allow you to choose which idea you'd like to learn more about. So we're going to spend a very short time together in this whole group session, and we'll spend a little bit more time in breakout rooms. And I'll let you know what that looks like when we get to that point. But I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Stacy Ginocchio, to talk to us about presenting video mini lessons. But before we do that, I just want to say a quick hello. We also have Sarah Skoda and Alana Parat and Naval Karuni, who is on our NQC team. We also see Kristen here from BSF. So we're all here to support you. And with that being said, I'm going to send it over to Stacy.
Hi guys, so we're talking about presenting new content today, right? And Kristen Zemke actually has a great video on our Big Shoulders Fun Distance Learning website about things to think about when you're creating these online lessons. So it's linked here in the slides, and then that's also on our distance learning website. But those of you that have been with us in the literacy initiative for all of our literacy PDs back when we were in session will recognize this graphic, right? Because we already have a structure that we use when we plan our mini lessons, right? We start with a connection, we give our teaching point, we model, we do some active engagement, and we end with a link. And we can use that same structure when we're planning lessons for video. There's just a few changes that we need to make. So we want to keep it short, right? Like 5 to 7 minutes tops. The connection, we can just say, hey readers, it's so good to see you. I hope that you're safe and healthy. Yesterday we talked about a reading strategy. Today we're going to talk about another one, right? And then move right on. You give your teaching point. You model that teaching point with a text. And then the active engagement is a part where we have to maybe tweak a little bit, because that's where we say to students, okay, turn and talk to somebody near you. They might not have somebody near them to turn and talk to. So for our older kids, we might say something like, get out your reader's notebook and jot down your thinking about blah, okay? Or for our younger kids, we might say, pause the video and then grab your favorite stuffed animal and tell them you're thinking about this character. So we want to think differently about how we're having kids turn and talk. But other than that, the structure is going to be pretty much the same. And then for the link, a lot of times when we're in our classrooms, we'll say something like, now just remember to try this strategy as you read today, off you go, and we give them a lot of kind of freedom. We're going to want to be a little bit more specific in our link when we're teaching remotely. So we might say instead, here's your specific assignment for today, or here's where you look to find your specific assignment.
I know that was a super quick intro, but remember, we're going to have some time to dig into this a little bit later. So if you're interested in how do I specifically turn some of these lessons into video mini lessons, Alana and Stacy are going to kind of host that breakout room to dig into that a little bit deeper with you. Thanks, Stacy. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk about what resources to use.
Sorry, struggles.
There you are.
Yeah, so hi everybody. So if we're thinking about the future, and I think especially in the very beginning, a lot of teachers had the attitude of, well, we're thrown into this, we're trying to get our feet underneath us, let's just review content that we've already taught. So just purely review. And now we are in this period of time where we know that we're going to be doing this for the rest of the year. And so wanting to make sure that our students are learning as much as they can and are being held accountable to what they're learning, and making sure that they are engaging with us as much as they can in an online way. So we were thinking about some different resources that we could share with you. And so I just wanted to quickly remind you of the Heinemann website. So if you are a school that uses the reading or writing units of study from Lucy Calkins, if you have your online login information, which hopefully you should, and if you don't, please reach out to either a literacy coach or to Liz, and we'd be happy to connect you to those resources if for some reason you didn't have that access beforehand. But if we just wanted to remind you that the Lucy Calkins Unit 4s of reading and writing are all online. They are on the general information tab. I wish I could screen share and show it to you, but unfortunately the Heinemann website is down today. So anyway, it's on the general information tab, and it's a PDF of the Unit 4. So in case you didn't bring your Unit 4 book home, it's there for you online. Another resource that is helpful for you could be the If Then book. And that is one of your books in your kit that you probably did not look at all year long, and that's okay. But the If Then unit has a lot of trial and error strategies, but it also has some suggestions as additional units. So if you're looking at that Unit 4 and you're like, there is no way that my students are going to be able to do this virtually, I can't attempt that. Instead, what you can do is you can look through the If Then PDF online, and there are some suggestions of teaching points and units that you can use for your students. So in addition to the Lucy Calkins curriculum that is online, also, I know a lot of you have the Jennifer Saravallo books, the reading and writing strategies books, and especially for the middle school, Kate Roberts' A Novel Approach is also a really great book for you to use to pull mini lessons out. Especially the Saravallo books, they are wonderful. They're one-page lessons where there's a visual already attached, and you can just follow that quick lesson and create a video or, you know, online instructions for your students to apply that reading strategy to text that they see via Epic or from their library, or et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that kind of, you know, gets your gears turning a little bit more on ways to create new content and help your students learn and apply new reading strategies to their reading.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of next up, we wanted to think about, we know that some of us have been pushing out lots of video mini lessons already. And so we wanted to think about what could the next step be. And one really great resource that Naval shared with us earlier is the idea of creating a virtual anchor chart. And the idea is that this anchor chart can be something that encapsulates a whole unit or a whole group of skills that kids can continually come back to as a resource, or as, you know, sometimes we hear parents say, we don't have enough to do at home. This can be something, go back to that anchor chart and kind of work through it. But this is also a resource for you. When we're thinking about all of the work that is going into these online lessons and all of the distance learning, we want to make sure we're encapsulating that in a place that's easy for us to go back to. Because not only will this be helpful if we have to do distance learning in the future, but when you're back in the classroom, this can be a super helpful resource when you're face-to-face. So we will kind of dig into this a little bit more in the breakout session, but wanted to kind of give you just a little bit of an overview. So in just a moment, everyone is going to get an invite to the breakout room. If you are interested in learning more about creating effective video mini lessons, maybe you haven't started that yet, or you're just working on it and you want to get some more tips and tricks, make sure that your video mini lessons are super tight and effective, I'm going to have you accept the breakout room and join Stacy and Alana over there, and they're going to kind of go through what this looks like. If you're like, you know, I'm good with that, I've been doing that for a little while, I want to learn about the next step, I'm going to ask you to not accept that invite and just stay in the main room here with Sarah and I, and we're going to talk a little bit more about virtual anchor charts and a few other kind of next step pieces. So give me 1 second, and all right. Let me go ahead and create the rooms. And okay, great. You should have all been invited. Yes. Do you guys see an invite on your screen? Great. Okay. So I see some people are already starting to head over there. If you are interested in those effective video lessons, go there. If you want to learn more about digital anchor charts or next steps, go ahead and stay with Sarah and I here. Great.
Hey, Elizabeth, I know you came late. Did that make sense? Do you know where you're going?
Yeah, I'd actually like to stay with the anchor charts.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thanks.
And I'm realizing my faux pas at the beginning. I forgot to introduce Jill from Erickson, who's here with us again to help out, especially for that early childhood. So if you, we have some kindergarten, first and second grade teachers here. She's going to be here to help us. So I think that worked okay. That was our first time trying this, like, put yourself optional section. So I think it looks like people got there. Hopefully it's all right. So Sarah, do you want to reshare that PowerPoint? But before we get started, and since we have a smaller group, you can go ahead and feel free to take yourself off mute if you want to, and we can kind of chat there. I'm curious, just have you guys been pushing out mini lessons regularly to your students? And if so, what resources are you using? Just curious with the group out here.
I've been using Unit 4, the fantasy unit for from Units of Study for my mini lessons, but then having my kids respond using Flipgrid.
Awesome. And are you finding, Stacey, that it's easy to adapt to online learning, or are you finding that you're having to adapt a lot of what's in the book?
I think most of it is like when it has them like work in partners, I kind of like just say, hey, like normally in class, I'd have you turn and talk to your partner, but just take a few minutes or like 10, 15 seconds right now to pause and think about what you would be saying. I think that's like the biggest difference I find. There are some things that I change as I'm going, but mostly the most difficult part is just not having that conversation back and being able to be like, oh yeah, so-and-so said this. It's kind of like, I'm assuming that most of you would have said this,
Yeah.
and then just like going on with the lesson.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier when you're talking to younger kids to be like, oh, I heard you say, you know, blah, 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 and like pretend like you're actually interacting with them versus fifth graders. It's like, you can't really do that.
Mm-hmm. I've been using the US books for phonics writing and the reading, and then the Saravello books, and then my Haggerty. But when it comes to the US books, again, I've been, modifying the lessons and, taking out little pieces, and then some of them I might stretch out a little bit. And then again, still using what the plans that they have for the interactive read alouds. I haven't done any of the shared reading, and I know I've seen that people put up shared reading, but I'm kind of wondering, how is that? How does it actually work? Is it really going to be doing the same? Will it work really the same? Will they follow along? So I'm wondering about, is it going to still be beneficial for them? But I don't know, I might try it. See if they'll follow along.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, maybe if you did shared reading with like a like in a live Zoom or something, that might work. But yeah, I would say trial and error and see if it works, and then if it doesn't, see if you could do it in a different way or scrap it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sarah, actually, you know what I'm wondering? Would you mind going back to just the original virtual anchor chart slide that we were talking about, and just kind of wanted to walk you guys through what this looks like. And when we send out the slides, you'll have this link directly to it. So if you feel like you want to just use this, you totally can. So I know it's hard to see. Maybe Sarah, would you mind clicking on the link? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So you can kind of see what it all looks like. So I use the videos that were up already of the writing mini lessons that were on our Big Shoulders Fun YouTube channel. And the format that I used was a choice board format that we had shared in another literacy initiative. And I think we may have also shared it in the Early Childhood Power Hour. And really it's a choice board format, but I put it kind of all in one place. So the first thing that I did was I thought about what does this kind of unit look like? And for me, the unit was just a week of writing lessons. And so I started with, in larger font, just the teaching point for each lesson. And so this is the idea that they would generate an entire story over a week of writing. So basically, I linked the video for each section. And then if there was something that I was asking them to do, like a graphic organizer that I wanted to fill out, I put that link there, but then also how to turn in whatever I'm asking them to turn in. So you'll notice I wrote this for more of an intermediate grade, right? So either email Mrs. Bartley or use on a Google Doc. But if this was something that you were doing with younger kids, it could say, take a picture, have a parent take a picture of writing and send it in, or video yourself on Flipgrid or Seesaw and send that to me. The other thing that I added here, and I was joking, I sent a text message to the team. I said, I just made a fake sign up for my fake class, fake Zoom with my fake lessons, right? But I added a sign up here for thinking about if you want kids to engage in kind of sharing their writing or sharing their reading or sharing their math even, sign up for a time to share a story during next Zoom. So all of these links will be clickable. Now, I did this all at once, but the idea would be that you could do it over time, right? And as you push out a new video, you could put in the new teaching point and the new link. So that way at the end of your entire unit, you would have kind of it all in one place, virtually ready to go. The benefit of this is you're doing all the work. This is really putting it in one place for kids to come back to when they need help, if you're asking them to do this again. Or if 3 weeks later, you're like, you know what, it's time to write another fiction story. I'm just going to post this back up and we're going to kind of move through these teaching points again. Or when we go back to the classroom and we are in person, this can be a great center activity, right? You can use each one of these boxes as a different kind of center where kids can sit down with their Chromebook, watch it, and then do the work and be able to respond to each other in person. So we really want to be thinking about how are we kind of pulling all of our resources in one really easily digestible, put together place that we can use over and over, because I hear all of this great work happening. We want to make sure that we're putting it in a place that we can access in the future. Thanks, Sarah.
So kind of going along with what Liz is saying about virtual anchor charts, obviously everything is virtual right now. And so I've found, I did not make these, I've purely stole them from other people who have shared ideas. But just thinking about having access to text as far as for reading and for writing goes. So there are a couple of resources on this page that hopefully you can find in either that you can directly use, or you can kind of like take that idea and build off of it. So the first thing is the Virtual Classroom Library, which is a Padlet. It's this screenshot down here, and it's for, I think it goes all the way to Z. So this Padlet, like you can kind of see if you're really interested in animals and you're reading at a level D and E, you can click there, and it's a Google Doc that takes you to, like, if you want to learn about penguins, you click on that penguin, and then it takes you to an epic book that you can read online. So that might be helpful for you in general, as far as, especially if you're doing something a little more specific than just like read a book and respond. It could be, I want you to read about an animal that you love and write about it. Or if you're doing a poetry unit or something, there's some more resources by genre on that Padlet. And then the bottom two links, one of them is right here for, this is the second grade, Unit 4, which is the series like series of books unit. And so this is helpful because it's giving students choice on what book they'd like to read, but it's all connected to EPIC. So you can kind of see, like, if a student is reading at a level K, she might choose between Fluffy, and here's a quick summary of these books, and Nellie Nutgraph. And I really want to read Nellie Nutgraph, and so I'm going to click on this, and it takes me to the link of the EPIC book. And I have a little bit of choice for that. And it's also helpful too, because then when a student is done reading that book, they can go back to this document to read something else that's still connected, and they can still apply those teaching and reading strategies that you're trying to teach them to another book that's applicable to that genre. Another thing to think about is, for using the Heinemann website, using those resources, because there are a ton of resources for reading and writing. And this is just an example of a writing, for a teacher who's pushing out informational text. These are the anchor charts. She just took a screenshot of them and kind of uploaded it onto, on one page. And so these are just different anchor charts that she has found helpful, that hopefully she's going to make her students use as a tool. So it's one of those, like how Liz was saying, here is here's the grid of all of my lessons. Here are some resources for you in order to be successful at this. So don't forget about Heinemann, as far as there's a ton of resources for reading and writing. Going off of, this is also a very similar thing to what Liz created earlier for writing. So I was working with a 4th grade teacher, and we made a bunch of videos for some nonfiction teaching strategies. And so each of these is just like a virtual anchor chart that's not finished, but these are just different lessons that we have already done. So for the 4th grade teacher I was working with, she did 3 lessons a week. And so, her first week, each of her students had like a Google Classroom assigned assignment: watch this video, respond in this way, here's a visual. And after the 2 weeks, she's realizing that like a lot of her students have not turned things in yet. She's not ready to push out new content. She kind of needs like a week to kind of catch herself and make sure that she's, providing feedback to her students and getting the students on who have not quite figured out Google Classroom yet. So we're kind of using next week as like a catch-all week or a catch-up week. And so what we did was we just made a Google Doc, and the link, it's linkable. But each one of these boxes is a video. So I hyperlinked the YouTube video so the students can go back to it. And then if there was a visual anchor chart, I just snapped a picture and uploaded it, or like an example graphic organizer. So this is a way for students, like for next week, the students are in charge of trying out one of the strategies that they already did, but they get to choose which one, and it's all there on one document. So as the teacher is continuing to upload and make videos and new assignments within the nonfiction genre, she's going to continue uploading to this, and then students will have a chance to go back and try these strategies, but they're all in one place.